prochain conférencier, M. Bradley McKinley, Senior Project Geologist pour KGHM International. M. McKinley a obtenu son baccalauréat en géologie de l'Université de Waterloo en 2003 et une maîtrise en géologie économique de l'Université de Colombie-Britannique en 2006. De 2004 à 2006, il a étudié le dépôt porphyrique cuivre or molybdène dans le district de Tudugone, dans le nord de la Colombie-Britannique. En 2006, comme géologue de projet, il a contribué à bonifier les ressources d'un gisement d'or associé à une syénite dans la région de Matachewan, en Ontario. Depuis 2008, Brad a travaillé pour FNX Mining, Quadra FNX Mining et maintenant pour KGHM International. Il est aujourd'hui géologue senior d'exploration et travaille sur de nombreux projets à travers l'Amérique du Nord. Il est membre de l'Association des géologues professionnels de l'Ontario. Aujourd'hui, sa conférence a pour titre KGHM International's Victoria Nickel Copper PG Discovery, Sudbury, The Secret is Out. Mr. McKinley.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brad McKinley. I'm an exploration geologist at KGHM International. What I'm going to talk to you about today is really our path to discovery for our Victoria deposit in Sudbury, Ontario. I'm really just going to lead us through the steps of our discovery and just show you how really good geology led to the zone number 4 PG discovery at Victoria. So just a disclaimer here, you don't have to believe anything I say. KGHM International is a new company. It was created last March of 2012. We were formerly Quadra FNX Mining. These are just a bunch of properties across the Americas for KGHM International. Where we're going to focus on today is our Victoria deposit in Sudbury, Ontario. So really just a basic cartoon here of the Sudbury Igneous Complex. Very generally, there's three main styles of mineralization in Sudbury. There's nickel mineralization, which occurs at the base of the SIC contact. There's mineralization associated with offset or radial dike structures coming off the SIC. A good example of an offset mineralization is our Podolsky 2000 deposit. The mineralization is contained in a quartz diorite offset dike. A good example of the historic, Sudbury was really historically a nickel camp, and it really still is, but a lot of that nickel mineralization occurred at the base of the SIC contact. A good example of that is our McCready West and Levac complex. And then the third style of mineralization in Sudbury is a footwall style of mineralization. And that's really a copper-rich mineralization with really high PGE values. And a good example of that is our Morrison deposit. And it's mostly contained into a rock it's a pseudotachelate we like to dub Sudbury breccia. What we're going to focus on today is sort of our Victoria project and how we came upon Zone 4. And what you'll see is sort of Victoria is a hybrid of an offset style quartz diorite dike with a bit of a footwall deposit mixed in. So really just where Victoria is relative to Sudbury, we're about 25 kilometers from the greater city of Sudbury. And just the Whitefish First Nations Reserve and the Sakamacc First Nations, just to put that in perspective of where we are. Of course, we're not the first to walk over the Victoria property in Sudbury. It goes back to the early 1900s here. And historically in Sudbury, it's all the nickel mineralization along the base of that SIC contact. I just like this picture. You got the mine in the background, everyone hanging their laundry out. Ore from the contact there was shipped by tramway down three miles south. You can actually still see that old tram line on the Victoria property. And these are the historic Sudbury roast beds on which the ore was processed. Now, there was some mining by the Inco Limited in the 1960s, but we're going to just fast forward to FNX mining days and sort of our contribution to Victoria when we started exploring the property. Victoria was a property picked up by FNX Mining, the former FNX Mining from Inco Limited. And we started exploration in 2002, and we had a bit of success right away in the discovery of the power line zone. I'll come back to how significant really the power line zone is. It's not big tonnage, okay grade, but really what it taught us about the property. Fast forward to 2008, we had a bit of hiatus in exploration between 2003 and 2008. We discovered the Morrison deposit up in Levack, so all exploration focus went up there. But in 2008, we came back to Victoria, and that was our Zone 1 discovery. And then from there, this is really where my story begins here, and our path to discovery is in 2008, all the way to 2010 and the discovery of Zone number 4. And then just the last few years here, engineering studies have commenced on Zone 4, and they're ongoing today. So this is just an interpretive geology map of the Victoria property. And I'll get back to this map. You can see the historic mines on the property. This is all historic mining, nickel mineralization. This is the SIC contact here. This is these offset radial quartz diorite dikes. Just to give you a general geology, a north-south section through Victoria. You can see the mineralization here along the SIC, the nickel mineralization. As we step out into the footwall rocks, we have metabasalts and metasediments, and there's the Creighton Fault running through the Victoria property. And really south of the Creighton Fault is when we get into sort of Zone 2 and Zone 4. And they're related to these offset dikes, but you can also see they're also squeezing in a little bit, and you get a footwall mineralization as well. The footwall mineralization is hosted within this metabreccia or Sudbury breccia, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. Just to give you sort of a view of the historic mining that happened at Victoria, we just have a little 3D section here. It's a little messy, but you can see all the historic mineralization along the contact, all nickel mineralization. But what you really need to take away from this diagram is that Victoria, it was always a thin pencil-like lenses of mineralization, very steeply dipping. And that's on the Victoria property, that's pretty common, and not just at the contact, but out into the footwall as well. Now, I'd like to talk a little about this map. I really like this map. It's in 2008, when we were doing exploration on the property, we didn't really have a geology map. So this was created in 2008, and what it is an interpretation of the geology. So what we did is we went back into the archives of the Victoria, all the way back to 1960 or whenever there was mapping done on this property, and we compiled all that information. And there was about 6 or 7 different grid systems that we had to get everything into our grid system. We printed everything out. We had digitized outcrops. We took the AeroMag and AeroEM surveys. We overlaid everything on top of each other, and then we just started drawing on a blank sheet of paper. And this is the map we came up with. You can see areas that are a little more detailed. That's where there's outcrop mapping, and in areas that are not, there's very little. There's actually a big lake here. There's very little outcrop exposed. So from this geology map, what we could see, really our focus was away from the SIC and into the footwall at Victoria. So what we could see is that, and it was always known on the Victoria property, that mineralization occurs at these terminations in this quartz diorite. And wherever these, and we call them pinches. Basically, I like to think of it as plasticine, and as you pull it apart, that's what it looks like. It pinches off. And where these quartz diorites pinch off, it goes into a Sudbury breccia. And at those pinch points is mineralization. So I said what the power line sort of taught us, and again, it was a little known already on the Victoria property, is that at these terminus points is mineralization. The number 4 ore body, the historic number 4 ore body also does this. It pinches off into a Sudbury breccia. So it's a combination of mineralization within the dike and also into the footwall Sudbury breccia. The power line as well. So when we started exploration in 2008, we had this map, and what we did is we looked south of the Creighton Fault. And you can see right away areas of interest. Now, a lot of people say, well, you just drew it this way to get exploration money. But there's more to it than that. You can actually go out and walk around these areas, and there's evidence that it is almost a pinch-like structure. There's no fault that dissects the quartz diorite out here. So our focus led us to this area right away, and it wasn't just because we drew it like a pinch. You can actually see the more detailed mapping here. It's actually outcrop exposed. So if you go walk around this area, you see these fragments within the quartz diorite. They're just not fragments from when this dike came through and incorporated some of the country rock here. They're actually exotic fragments. They're ultramafic peridotite blocks. And some have hypothesized that these blocks have actually come from the base of the SIC. So there's good evidence that this may have traveled pretty far, and it may have come from this heat source, the SIC contact. That, and if you really get down on your hands and knees on this outcrop, you actually see blebby chalcopyrite mineralization and pyrrhotite mineralization. Very sparse, but you can make it out. So those three pieces of evidence led exploration to this area. We really wanted to test a theory that these pinches are sort of where mineralization concentrates. So just a bit of a spoiler alert, Zone 2 and Zone 4 are found in these areas. But at the time, in 2008, when we started drilling, we really wanted to test this pinch. Now, we didn't know much about this pinch at the time. Here's some historic drilling up here, but we launched 1172 down here just to sort of try to test this area. What we found was the contact was quite steep. But this is where Zone 1 was discovered in the summer of 2008. And it was totally hosted within this quartz diorite. So it didn't really have too much to do with the pinch. It had a lot of these exotic fragments, these peridotite blocks, and it was almost a net-like texture mineralization. Lots of pyrrhotite, a bit of copper. So what we did was we kept drilling this area off, but what we really wanted to do was test this pinch. So in late 2008, we sent a vertical hole right down this pinch. And this was actually the last hole that was drilled in 2008. And it stopped a little early because at the end of 2008, the financial world was in a bit of a mess, and we actually pulled, exploration went into a bit of a hibernation at FNX Mining. But the last thing we did was we sent a probe down, and we did some borehole EM on this hole. Now, for those that you don't recognize these profiles, I always compare them to heart rate monitors, and a flat line is really no good for anybody. But what you really want to see on these is sort of signs of life. So when 2009, July 2009 rolled around, we got some exploration money back. We came out of hibernation, and the first thing we did is we looked at this profile. And what we noticed was right near the tail end of this hole, there was signs of life. And what this channel is, this is a late time channel, channel 1. So when the late time channels actually show a bit of deviation, it's pretty interesting. So we had this interpretation done. It was Lamontagne Geophysics here. They produced a UTEM plate for us, an anomaly. And what we did was we extended this hole, and just to test this anomaly, test our pinch as well. And what it did is we intersected Zone 2 in July of 2009. So 1.5 copper, 1.6 nickel, and 5.4 grams per ton over 58 feet. And what Zone 2 is related to this quartz diorite pinch. It is entirely hosted within Sudbury breccia. So we're pretty excited about that. What we did then is we focused all our drills. We had 2, and I think we bumped up to 4 drills at the time to focus on our Zone 2 here. By sending a vertical hole right into it, we didn't know really the optimal angle to drill off Zone 2. So we came at it from a bunch of different directions to try to figure out what the best angle was to drill off Zone 2. And as we were doing that, we'll focus in here a bit. We'll just watch this quartz diorite as it changes. Every time we sunk drill holes and we got enough of them, we kept updating our geology. So you can see the quartz diorite has changed a little bit here. But as we were drilling off Zone 2, we kept doing these EM surveys downhole. And what it did was produce these large anomalies off to the south. Now, we really ignored these anomalies off to the south because they were coming in around 2,000 Siemens, and Zone 2 was lighting up about 20,000 Siemens in conductance. So for a little while, we ignored these and we just continued drilling Zone 2, but they just kept appearing in the profiles of the drill holes that we kept drilling. And our geology changed. Our understanding of the geology changed. As we were drilling Zone 2, we kept updating our understanding of the geology changed. As we were drilling Zone 2, we kept updating our sections and plans. And it came pretty apparent that the quartz diorite was doing something a little odd over here. We didn't exactly know. We didn't have too many drill holes over here. But that, coupled with these UTEM anomalies, got us interested in this area as well. So you can see just a plan view, the angles that we're trying to drill Zone 2 off. I always give geophysicists a bit of trouble saying, you always seem to put your anomalies where I don't have any of my drill holes. You always squeeze them in there, but the geophysicist got me back. What we did was we sunk a vertical hole again to test these anomalies and test our understanding of the quartz diorite in this area. And this was probably the most exciting hole we drilled on the property at the time. In the spring of 2010, we hit 1,367 feet of 1.3 copper, 0.6 nickel, and 2.2 grams per ton total precious metals. So as you can imagine, we did EM on that hole, and it produced a bunch of different anomalies. But what it did is produce a really high conductive anomaly at the base. So we focused our drills on this new area. And you can see we continue to do borehole EM, and the conductance really went up, and this was the Zone 4. So we stopped drilling Zone 2, went to Zone 4, and we had some pretty good success. And the anomalies, this is our deepest hole at the moment. Our anomalies do extend deeper, and we are trying to extend Zone 4 at the moment, but target depths are around 2.2 kilometers right now. So there's just a general outline of, at the time, of what Zone 4 we thought looked like. Some intersections. This was the second hole into Zone 4. This is quartz diorite up here. You can see 623 feet. This is an example of that hole. There's really still these exotic fragments, but it's pretty massive sulfide. As you get deeper into Zone 4, some of the intersections became even more massive sulfide and very little fragments. This was 95C, 308 feet of 2 copper, 3 nickel, and 5.1 total precious metals. And you can see actually these are large pentlandite eyes, the nickel ore in the Victoria deposit. And as you get even deeper, the total precious metals really increase. This is actually visible gold through this piece of core here. And you can see over 71 feet, we had 60 grams per ton total precious metals. And actually, the record is 1200 E, and it was 87 feet of 96 grams per ton total precious metals. It's just a little deeper than this one. So this diagram just really puts in context the size between Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 4. Zone 4 is just a monster. Again, the thin pencil-like mineralization at Victoria seems to reflect what Zone 2 looks like, but Zone 4 is a totally different a beast here. There's the resource numbers updated at the end of 2011. You can just see the comparison here. 2.5 copper, 2.5 nickel, and a total of 7 grams or 7.8 grams total precious metals. And just compared to our Zone 2. So this is just a long section of the Zone 4 ore body. What it shows that Zone 4 is related, we think it's related to a pinch, but it's not a pinch like a Zone 2 where it's a horizontal pinch. It's almost like a tonsil-like pinch, that the quartz diorite comes down and then pinches vertically into a Sudbury breccia here. Almost 1/3 of Zone 4 is contained, the mineralization is contained within the quartz diorite dike, and the other 2/3 is contained within Sudbury breccia or meta breccia. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take some planned shots through the ore body here. And it's really our geological interpretation of what we think's going on from all our drilling. You can see here 1190, 1186. This is the mineralization contained within the quartz diorite. And as we step down, what you'll notice is that the total precious metals really increase. And the deeper we get, the richer the total precious metals get. So now we're getting down into the more Sudbury breccia domain. We're getting away, we're pinching off that quartz diorite, and we're getting down the depth. And you'll notice the total precious metals start to increase at depth. There's just a picture of a 95C. Again, there's very little fragments even at these depths, and it's mostly massive mineralization, but you can really see the grades start to increase. Again, right down near the bottom from, it's not really where the mineralization stops, but it's where our drilling has got to date. This is where you get the really high total precious metals. Still the copper and nickel values are quite good, but the precious metals are really spectacular at these depths. Our former chief financial officer, Dr. Catherine Farrow, always liked to compare this zone number 4 to the Frood deposit in Sudbury. We cannot compare in terms of tonnage, but just in the terms of style of mineralization, and how Frood started off in this quartz diorite, really chock full of exotic fragments, Blebby style mineralization, and as you get down at depths, it gets into a Sudbury breccia style of mineralization. And as you go deeper, you increase the copper-nickel ratio, and you increase in PGEs, and that's what Victoria does, just on a smaller scale than the Frood deposit. So really the highlights to take away, it's hopefully I've shown you our thinking and our path to discovery here. We've started with a geology map, and really that got us generally in the right area and our thinking of pinches and structures. And in geophysics really helped focus us and guide us at depth there onto zone 4. And really that's the story here, is really good geology work, working with geophysics, and really coming away with a really nice product here. One of our pillars in our company is success through teamwork. And I don't believe Victoria would have been found when it was found if we didn't have the team in place that we had. These are the current people that are still with the company, and a lot have moved on. Dr. Catherine Farrow and Gord Morrison. Everyone contributed to this deposit. It wasn't found by a single individual. It took a team of really dedicated individuals to really produce something very special. So, thank you.
On aurait le temps pour quelques questions. Pas de questions. Merci, Brad. Thank you for this excellent conference. Brad a réussi à montrer qu'une découverte résulte souvent à l'application des principes de base de la géologie. Alors, encore une fois, un exemple parfait où la géologie a joué un rôle dominant dans une découverte très importante.